please welcome Cord to tell you more about the XING News service.
All right, thank you. Thanks a lot. Hi, I'm Cord. I'm responsible for news at XING. And today I would like to talk with you about the next 12 minutes, or 11 minutes and 50 seconds, about why XING is employing journalists. So what's the logic behind going from a network to a newsroom? And let me ask you a short question. Is anyone here working in journalism or in media? Anyone? Anyone? The one with the camera wants to make a picture? Okay. Yeah, so that's what I would like to talk with you about. And but first, 2 words about XING. First of all, it's pronounced Zing, not crossing. I was confronted with that question beforehand. So XING was founded in 2003 in Hamburg. We are still based in Hamburg. In 2006, we IPO'd, and since then, everything's grown pretty nicely. And just recently, we joined the club of unicorns with a 1 billion valuation, which is pretty nice. And now we have employed journalists. And we employed pretty famous journalists who we could win. Roland Tichy, who was long-time chief editor, has been a long-time chief editor of Wirtschaftswoche, and Jennifer Lachmann is chief editor, so experienced journalist from the Financial Times, Germany, when it was still the Financial Times in Germany. And so we employed journalists. And the question is, why would a professional network do something like this? And first of all, it's important to notice that social networks are becoming a primary source for news consumptions. And depending on what kind of study you look at, people state to 30 to 70% of people are stating they are actively reading news on social networks. They're not visiting any websites anymore. They're just consuming news when they come to them in the social network. And second point, even more interesting, is they're not passively consuming the news like they would read it on a printed newspaper. They're actively debating it. So everyone has his own thoughts, their own opinion about what's happening in the news, and they're actively debating it. They want to get the opinion out about it. So if you just think about, for example, the hashtag Aufschrei in 2013, which created a huge debate about sexual harassment, or if you think about the statement from Anja Raschke about racism in Germany and what it all meant, or also a debate about hate speech and Gegenspeech, which is currently going on Facebook. So that all means that people not only want to consume news in social networks, they want to actively participate in news and discuss it. And what does it mean for us as XING, as the largest professional social network in German-speaking countries? It means that we not only have 9 million readers of news, that also means that we have 9 million industry experts and potential contributors to the news. So we have experts on the network who are presumably also want to share their thoughts and their opinions. And that's what we thought is an interesting fact. It's an interesting change that is going on. It's not a one-directional movement anymore where a journalist is writing something and other people are reading. It's a thing where everyone is kind of contributing to the news. So the aim of what we are going to do is that journalists at XING should create a platform to leverage that expertise of the users to debate relevant business topics. So it's really more about creating a platform for thoughts and opinions rather than just saying what we think is important. So we are trying to get a rather different approach to news than traditional journalists would do. It's not about just that a journalist saying how he sees the world. It's more about finding the right expert who has an authentic view on a given topic. It's more letting the expert who has the expertise, giving them a voice to talk about what we think is important. So authenticity is an important point. Secondly, we think it's pluralistic is a very important point, especially when you think about Gegenspeech and all those movements around it. It's important to see both sides or multiple sides of a story, not only one angle of the view. And the third element that we're trying to foster is interactivity. So we think a lot of knowledge and a lot of opinions are inside the users, inside the expert, inside the community, not in the journalist itself. So the 3 elements that we are trying to create a medium for is that we want to create a medium that's authentic, pluralistic, and interactive. So those are the three ideas where we think, where we as XING think that we can create a new medium for journalism. And about those three elements that are guiding thoughts, I would like to show you some examples of how we have implemented since October last year, since we launched this XING Klartext, about how we want to implement that one. So authenticity. When we wanted to talk about why are still so many men only founding companies and not females, we asked Lea Sophie Kramer about her personal experience, how it is like as a successful entrepreneur to find a company. We could also have us ask Pia, as you have known her beforehand, so telling a very authentic story from her personal viewpoint, how is it like to find a company and what does it mean to be a female, not a man as usual. Or when we wanted to discuss the topic of what all goes wrong when finding a company, what are the learnings that you could do when building up your own startup, we ask entrepreneurs what went wrong when they found a company. In this example is Gabriel, who talked about his experiences with AKAPI, which didn't went out when he founded this 2006. So very authentic view, personal view on this one. Or when we wanted to discuss the topic of how is the economy going on in China, we ask, or we get a very long and good statement from Frank Appelt, who's the CEO of Deutsche Post, of how he sees how the economy in China will develop. Because he has some pretty personal insights because he's doing business over there. But those are complex topics, and there's not only one opinion and one person to look at when trying to think about those questions. So we are always trying to create a pluralistic view on specific topics. So in this case, we also asked, in this example, a scientist, Sandra Hepp, who's running a think tank about China studies, how she thinks the business in China will develop, or a researcher from the Institute for Wirtschaft, what his opinion is about how the economy in China will develop. So there are multiple angles to look at one topic, and everyone has a different point of view how this might evolve, and we're trying to get a very pluralistic view on each individual topic so that the user can make its own opinion out of it. Because usually the questions and the topics are not that easy that there's a black and white answer. Especially not the journalist is the one who has the on top of mind opinion on that one, but the expert maybe have. Other topics are controversial in their very own nature. So for example, when the Lufthansa strike was going on last year, we found it important to give everyone a voice who has a stake in that one. The two persons who have the biggest stake in that one was on the one hand the head of the union who was striking, and on the other hand the chief negotiator for Lufthansa was saying, hey, we cannot negotiate with these guys. So we give both persons an area where they can really explain why it is that the strike is important and necessary. And as you could imagine, the debate was pretty intense, and at some point in time, especially the guy from the union went that far that he said, hey, we want to talk, and here's my cell phone number. He posted it publicly on XING. Please call me and let us debate and let us discuss again. So it was very important for him to have a forum where he can make up his mind and saying, that's the reason why we are striking. The third element that I mentioned is interactivity. So we really think it's the job of the journalist is not really giving the right answers, but more steering the dialogue, letting the dialogue in the expert community foster that one and let everyone share his thoughts about that topic. And what we are seeing is that the expert community on XING has pretty substantial contributions to that. So on average, every comment on XING on one of those topics that we're discussing is about 130 words long, so pretty substantial, and everyone brings in his own thoughts, his own argument, and they're building up on each other. So everything what the community brings into those discussions is pretty valuable, even more valuable what the journalist could write. So, and in our editorial team, we have a very close look at what the community is saying and what arguments the community is bringing up to each one debate. And when we are finding a very interesting comment from a user, from a regular expert user that is on XING and who shares his thoughts about a given topic, we ask them, don't you want to write a whole article out of it? Lay out your thoughts even more so that people could read it and bring your argument to the discussions. So this is one example of it. where we're discussing what a parental leave means for your career. Other things that we're experimenting with, and we have just started last October, is creating new content out of the debate that is going on in the network. So this is one example where our chief editor has written together a summary of all the discussions and all the user comments that were going on during one debate and saying, hey, this is a summary of what all people have said, and here are some key arguments from individual persons, and what does it mean? I have 30 seconds left. Another element that we are trying is to really engage the community and the expertise of our users and when we want to debate specific topics. This is another example that we are trying to experiment is with asking pretty open questions to our community. In this example, so what do you think the Deutsche Bahn should change? What's going good or what's not so going good with the Deutsche Bahn? And we had pretty intense engagement in terms of more than 500 comments, pretty long comments of people who are using the Deutsche Bahn every day and saying this goes wrong and this is not correct and why don't you do something about this one? And we confronted the CEO of the Deutsche Bahn with all that feedback from the community. And as he found that pretty important, he himself then answered, said, okay, those are the things what we want to change. Those are the things that we have listened to and we're going to implement in the future and have this forum also to say his point of view to the given topic. So these are just some examples that we're experimenting with blending a network and a classical newsroom and bringing those two together. And what the journalists, oh, that's an interesting font. So this is a PC Mac translation thing. So what I wanted to say is a summary. Not that a Mac makes nicer fonts than a PC. What I wanted to say as a summary is that journalists at XING are trying to become the newsroom inside the network. And their job is really to finding out what are important topics to talk about, what are authentic views on that one, and creating a new medium from professionals to professionals. And that's the beginning of the Q&A.
Yeah.